by a grand jury earlier this month in a San Antonio district court charged with 10 counts in connection to a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. 57-year-old Janet Yamanaka Mello is a Notre Dame High School graduate. She was a salutatorian in 1984. But Mello apparently using her intellect in a criminal manner, putting her under investigation by the IRS and the military. She's accused of stealing over $100 million in Army funds meant to help military children for her own benefit.
Hello, family. Welcome back to another episode of Journey to Harmony. I'm your host, Richard Harmon. Today, I want to come today and talk to you about a woman, a civilian, who was working with the military designed to give child care for military parents, military workers, and she stole $100 million from the military during that time period. This woman's name is Janet Yamanaka Mello, 57-year-old woman down in San Antonio, Texas. She was living it up. So she was given the title of program manager, financial program manager in Fort Sam Houston, Texas. And she's received over 10 count indictment by a federal grand jury. So each count that she has carries a potential maximum of 20 years. So she's looking at potential 200 years in prison. And I'm sure right now that the military is interested in giving her as much time as possible for them creating a fool of them the way she did. I'm going to play a video and watch a little bit more of this particular clip. Your first time joining, please consider subscribing to the channel. And here we go.
The former royal was a U.S. Army civilian employee working as a financial program manager at Fort Sam Houston in the Lone Star State. Court documents allege Mello used her position to submit fraudulent paperwork to funnel funds into her company. In 2016, she started a business called Child Health and Youth Lifelong Development, or CHILD, which was supposed to provide services for military families and children. But the business was a front. No services were provided. She allegedly used the millions of dollars to buy personal items like high-end jewelry, clothing, vehicles, and real estate. Court documents list a total of nearly 80 cars up for forfeiture, to include multiple Mercedes-Benzes, Land Rovers, Aston Martins, and Maseratis. A total of 31 real estate properties from Maryland, New Mexico, Texas, Colorado, and Washington is also up for forfeiture. Mello is charged with mail fraud, engaging in a monetary transaction, using criminally derived proceeds, and aggravated identity theft. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas, if convicted, she faces a maximum of 20 years in prison for each fraud charge, up to 10 years in prison for each spending statute charge, and a mandatory minimum of 2 years in prison for the aggravated identity theft charge.
All right, guys, so there it is. You have it. Again, this is pretty wild. So Mello allegedly used the stolen funds to amass a real estate portfolio of 31 properties, a fleet of 78 vehicles, more than 18 million in various bank accounts linked to her, and a jewelry collection according to the court records. Some of the luxury listings include a roughly $3.1 million 8-bedroom, 55-car garage, and 58-acre estate in Maryland, and an approximately $1.1 million house in San Antonio, Texas. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with San Antonio and that area, but if you're buying a house for $300,000, you're buying yourself pretty much a 4,000 square foot house. It's generally going to be a pretty nice. So if you're buying something for 1.1 million, you're looking at you're looking at like a $4 or $5 million home in most other places. It's going to be big. It's going to be expansive. 18 acres in that area is not an easy deal. What's happening right now is the military is having a big issue in terms of accounting. What happens with a lot of, whether it's companies or it's government, when you become so large, there's a huge issue in terms of tracking your information and tracking your data. I had a story here that read just a little bit about this, about the Pentagon. So again, the Pentagon has failed its 6th audit in a row last month. And failed is putting it generously. The article says the department actually received a disclaimer of opinion. According to the Government Accountability Office, that means the auditors were unable to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence to provide a basis for the audit opinion. So what does that mean? Let's put that into terms here. So the Pentagon keeps failing audits, and it's because it can't keep track of its property. Last year, the Pentagon couldn't properly account for a whopping 61% of its $3.5 trillion in assets. $3.5 trillion. 61%. So 50% of 3.5, you're looking at like 18 or 9 or 1.8 or 1.9 trillion dollars that they can't find the property for. This is a wild situation, and every single year, what happens is that the defense budget gets passed regardless of whatever else is going on. All the other spending, all the other talking, that's for y'all. You know what I mean? But they are able to get whatever it is that they desire. They get their money in, and no one really accounts for it. So you see here, $1.8 trillion in assets cannot be accounted for. That figure increased this year with the department insufficiently documenting 63% of his now $3.8 trillion in assets. The military contractors possess many of these assets. So you have military contractors who are generally the ones who are in charge of these assets, and they can't account for almost 70% of what it is that they have in terms of their stock. This is a wild number, and again, it speaks to a lot to what this lady was doing. Is that she understood that she could just spend money. How can one person, you're tasked with creating school and creating educational options for kids, and you're just buying luxury cars and no one notices? This is the country that we're living in right now. You know, money is flowing easily. The last few years, due to the pandemic, people were just, the stimmy checks and the PPP loans, people were living it up big time. While we've seen other stories about how people have lived on 3 million, 10 million, $20 million, $100 million is a serious thing, and I expect this lady's going to get some really long time in prison as a result of it. We need definitely some better accountability, because right now, as they are spending and tossing money from left to right, it's you, it's I, it's taxpayers who are going to be footing the bill to this thing. They're going to continue writing checks, and they're going to continue passing it on to us, but we'll see exactly how this plays out. What are your thoughts? Please comment below, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining. Have a good day.